I want to start a new series talking about horror movies where technology is the big bad in the story. Two of my favorites from the 80s, low budget movies, both came out in 1987, and they both feature a protagonist who receives an unexpected and unasked for gift of a piece of video equipment that ends up killing people and driving them out of their mind. And these two movies are The Video Dead and Night Vision. The Video Dead, hardcore horror fans will be aware of. It's about a brother and sister named Jeff and Zoe. The family's been living apart. The parents have been working overseas, and they bought a house in suburbia. And these two kids, who are older teenagers, are gonna come to the house first before the parents move in and unpack. And among the boxes is this TV set that, unbeknownst to them, was left there by the former owner, who was killed in a prologue scene when he turned the TV on and a zombie movie starts playing, and zombies came out of the TV and killed him. But it doesn't happen right away for Zoe and Jeff. The zombies come out of the TV and they go on a little rampage around the neighborhood that's more or less comedic. This is kind of a horror comedy, but not exactly laugh out loud funny. I want to think about, obviously, what this could mean, that the TV is evil. Jeff's kind of aimless, kind of horny. At one point, a sexy woman comes out of the TV and he starts making out with her. But then this guy comes on the TV in one of the great what the fuck moments in horror history, who calls himself the Garbage Man. And he doesn't come out. He just comes on the screen and he says, "Don't you want to see who you were kissing?" And the hot girl that Jeff was with is actually a ghoul. And this guy calls himself the Garbage Man because he deals with human garbage, meaning these zombies and ghouls, except we don't really see him again. Another guy shows up who is kind of a survivalist with bow and arrow and a lot of traps and stuff. He's going to try to take out the zombies because he knew that the TV was coming to that house for some reason. But this doesn't end well for him or for Jeff. Now, Zoe, she's a little bit more driven in life than Jeff. She's fixing to start college. She's going to study exercise science and become an aerobics teacher. And somehow she figures out that if she is nice and accepting to the zombies, she can get them to go back in the TV and the day will be saved. So she's smiling. Through her extreme fear, she's welcoming them into the house. She ushers them down to the basement and she gives them some dinner and puts on some music so they can dance and gets them to go back into the TV, and the TV's off. But then, of course, it's a horror movie, so there has to be a gotcha at the end. She's in a mental institution, and her parents happily come in, wheeling the TV in. So what does this mean? The TV originally was, as a gadget, supposed to bring families together, kind of like a digital hearth. They were all going to sit around and enjoy TV together. But some people, they watch too much TV, like Jeff. And also, the TV can bring unsavory outside influences into your living room that you might not have otherwise seen in the world. This is just me, spitballing or whatever you call it. What can this mean? Zoe manages to conquer the zombies in the way that you would conquer bad thoughts that you're having if you're practicing mindfulness. You accept them and you let them go by. And the thing to remember about a TV is that you can just turn it off, and whatever bad thing is coming out of it will be there in it until somebody else turns it back on. Let's move on to Night Vision. I was very excited to find this movie on Tubi. Both of these movies are on Tubi. I had seen it years ago when you used to download private channels onto the Roku, and people would just put any old thing on there. And we found this and we watched it and didn't have that channel anymore. It got taken down. And every few years I'll say to my husband, remember that movie about the video store? But we couldn't remember what it's called. And it's such a generic title, Night Vision. I found it while I was looking for something else. Now, the director of this movie, he only made 2 films, and he had a vision, a night vision. Both of them were about somebody who unexpectedly gained psychic powers that were evil. So there's something for your exploitation deep dive. What does psychic powers mean? This is about a guy named Andy Archer. He wants to be a writer, but he doesn't have any life experience. The whole joke is, ha ha ha, he's from Kansas, and he's not there anymore. So he moves to an unnamed city, but I believe it was filmed in Denver. And there's a lot of stress for him at suddenly seeing a lot of crime and people being violent towards each other. He tries to stay in a nice hotel when he gets there, and it's all booked up by this strange organization. They wear horns on their heads, but as far as I know, now the middle of the movie gets kind of nightmarish and muddled, I will admit, but I don't think that they are the devil cult that is responsible for the evil VCR. I think they're just like some drunk idiots, like a Shriners type club. Not that Shriners are drunken idiots, but just one of those clubs where the club is being in the club, like Eagles or Beavers or whatever local club they have that's really just a bar. I'm digging a hole. But there is a devil cult in this city. They do have an evil VCR, and there's a guy named Vinny who deals in stolen TVs and VCRs. Now, keep in mind, in 1987, a VCR was still pretty expensive for the average family, and to the point where you could rent one for the weekend from the video store. Everyone didn't own one. So stealing VCRs and selling them on the black market would have been a pretty lucrative business. Well, this guy, Andy, he's very naive. He's very frightened by the things that he's seeing. Some of the devil cult members are beating up Vinny, and Andy comes to his rescue, and Vinny's like, hey, let's have a beer and let me give you a gift. And he gives him the evil VCR that the devil cult was trying to get back from Vinny, and a TV. And throughout the movie, Vinny keeps coming to Andy's motel room, and he's staying in this terrible sort of no-tell motel, and the neighbors are all crazy. There's one couple that's fighting and shooting at each other, and you see the guy with his arm in a sling. That women are somewhat dominant in a toxic way in this film. Come to think of it, there's that guy's unseen girlfriend, there's the motel owner, and then there is the girl that works at the local video store. Her name is Jill, and Andy gets involved with her. And once they become sexually involved in the middle of the movie, it's kind of disturbing, because he's got this evil VCR in his terrible room, and he's not sure if he's dreaming the things that the TV's coming on at night and showing. It seems like he's seeing the future of terrible things that happen, or he may be making them happen. He's definitely writing stories on his typewriter and not remembering doing it, like a all play and no work, da 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 da, strike that, reverse it kind of thing. But when he gets involved with Jill, she becomes very aggressive, and the first time that they have sex, the camera closes up on this guy's face, and he's crying, but he goes along with it. But you don't know if the whole relationship is in his mind. It seems like it's real, but this guy Vinny keeps coming and bothering him in his room, and they will argue because Andy doesn't approve of Vinny being a thief, and Vinny is defending his right to be a thief, but he just keeps coming back and seeing Andy, and I'm not sure. It's never clear if he has any involvement with the cult that is making the bad things happen with the VCR. But then Andy ends up in a mental institution. But what he does accomplish with whatever's happening with the VCR is getting Vinny arrested for theft. So, what does a VCR mean? On the surface, it was bringing to an end theaters as a medium for people to watch movies. But also, there's a lot about Andy sort of losing his innocence and coming to this evil city and getting involved in the evils of the city when he should have just stayed in Kansas. The VCR, they put out this technology for the home market. The first time I ever saw one was about 1978. But by 1987, there was a video store on every corner, and then other stores like the laundromat or the gas station would have tapes in there for rent. And you could just put any old thing out on a tape, and someone would distribute it. And people were seeing trash like they had never seen. It was some intentional humor in this movie. This little kid kept coming in the store and trying to steal the tapes. But if you'll remember, most of the tapes in video stores didn't have a tape in them when they were on the shelf. So, he was trying to take like dirty movies, but there were no movies in the boxes. And this girl, Jill, could not convince him to stop coming and stealing these empty boxes. And the funny thing was that she told him that little kids that get caught stealing have to watch Sesame Street backwards, and so then they don't know their alphabet. I liked that. I liked almost everything about this movie. I was very excited to find it again. Um, I don't know why the VCR was needing to be instrumental in Andy's downfall, or why both of these people ended up insane, other than the obvious of seeing something that you can't explain that's so bad that it just breaks your mind. But you can let me know what you think if you've seen these. If you go and see them on, like I said, they're both on Tubi, and maybe somebody has an answer. And I'm going to try to think of other offbeat, low budget movies that have a similar theme. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. And please be kind and rewind. Bye.